March Madness, man, we're in the middle of it. It's the Sweet 16, 2024. Now let's get into it. Welcome again to another episode of the 1% in Recovery podcast, where we love to say, laugh every day, work hard. And work hard means work in your relationships, work in recovery, work in your jobs, or if you are own a business. Remember, recovery is beautiful. Your EQ is your IQ, and you cannot outthink an emotional illness, an emotional issue. Now out, the Recovery Growth Scorecard. It's free. This is revolutionary in getting people started. You got to fill that void. Man, when you stop an addiction, man, your brain is all in a fog. You don't know what to do with all the time. People are talking to you about the steps, or read literature, or talk to people, or talk to a sponsor, or go to a therapist. You got all this information, and the newcomer, or if you just relapse, part of you just wants to kind of go home, thinking that you can use willpower, self-sufficiency, but that hasn't worked in the past. It's not going to work now. So the Recovery Growth Scorecard uses natural hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, serotonin, activities like prayer or exercise, or being in nature, laughing, music, these types of things. It's a whole list. It's a scorecard, but you get to keep score. So you start to almost do habits, even though your mind's not there. You don't realize is recovery is complex. We can get more into it. Also, free 15-minute discovery coaching call. If you want to talk about the steps for recovery, relationships, contact me. Everything's on the website, www.lifeiswonderful.love, LOVE, or email me, Hugo V at lifeiswonderful.love. Now let's jump into this week's episode. March Madness. Everyone goes kind of crazy. This is actually the biggest gambling weeks, because the Super Bowl may be a one-day event with so many prop betting, so much going on. But the dance, when you're talking about 64 teams and then going all the way through 3 weekends, it's the most money, most gambling done in a 3-week period. Now I'll give you a story about March Madness. In March of 1999, I knew I had gone way overboard and I needed help. I called a helpline for gambling. I found out where meetings were here in Houston, Texas. Wrote them down, hung up the phone, never went. Continued to gamble for a whole year. March 2000, I call again. And then this time I actually finally go to a meeting. It was actually a Thursday night. It was during the actually Sweet 16, and I bet on 3 of the 4 games, the 2 early games and one of the later games. And that's how my journey started. Now, I did not stop until April 13th of 2000. So there was a month kind of going days with not gambling, other days of relapsing. You can learn more about that. But that's kind of like the whole thing about March Madness. Now, the crazy thing is we just bet on games back then. And this is the problem that I have with the gambling industry now. They cannot get their hands on enough money. There is no amount of money that satisfies the gambling industry. I know society wants gambling. It's no different than society wants alcohol. Now, alcohol has no redeeming quality to put in your body. Alcohol is true poison for your body. If you look at all the numbers, just scientific, medical numbers. And gambling, you will lose over time. The odds are against you, so you will end up, gambling is like poison to your bank account, to your retirement, to your well-being, which then will help go into your physical state. But when this is what the gambling industry, now I get it, it's a business. So you're trying to maximize profits. But the thing is when you have a product, which is the most addictive, it's more addictive than alcohol and any other drug. The main reason why it is because it's on your phone. It's nonstop advertising of gambling. And the government is just pushing it. They think they're getting all this extra free revenue for education. It's as though every politician never took an economics course. It's as though they are dumb. I will say this again. I believe all the politicians do is listen to the gambling industry lobbyists saying that we're going to create jobs. This is their big thing. We're going to create jobs and tax revenue. And right now, the gambling industry would prefer that they just handle everything over the phone, and they do not even have brick and mortar casinos or walk in kiosks, anything to minimize overhead in terms of personnel. So they really are trying to just maximize. And that's why they started in with, then it was the prop betting. What really gets me is all this in-game betting and not realizing at first it was in-game betting like the second quarter, the fifth inning. Now it's everything about the next pitch, the next shot. They speeding up the game, the gambling game so fast that people are now going from starting gambling to being underwater. And I mean going through the whole cycle, which is unprecedented to go. And this is what no drug takes you through the cycle faster than gambling now. They will go through the winning phase, the losing phase, and the desperation phase. I've talked about this in other podcasts. I'm tying everything together. The original 12 steps, my steps, the 12 steps explained, going through the history, going through how we tied in religion, medical knowledge, the history of alcoholism and alcoholics to kind of form this whole thing about addiction. And there's a lot of more almost like novelty with gambling. That's why there's so few people that truly understand how to help the compulsive gambler, the problem gambler. That's another thing that just irritates me. There's no such thing as the compulsive. There's only pathological compulsive gambling is 1% to 2%, and they're saying that problem gamblers are 4% to 6%. Guess what? If you're a problem gambler, you're underwater. You got your head up your ass in debt, and you need help. And so it's no longer just 1% or 2%, and it's probably getting closer to 10%. There was a new statistic out. 20% of college students are using financial aid money for gambling. They barely can stay afloat. If you were in college, you barely had enough money. You're not going to win. You're not going to get this free money, whether it's Pell Grants, whether it's loans, and then try to double, triple the amount of money that you have because you have a little bit of a bankroll. You will lose that bankroll, and then you will be trying to get a job, and you will be probably just eating spaghetti with no sauce because you don't even have money for the sauce. So that's my issue with the in-game betting. And the other things that we're going to talk about is Ohtani. I can tell you straight out, Ohtani is a liar. The big story about the translator being, I believe the translator is the compulsive gambler. But the thing is, Ohtani enabled. You don't come up with one story and then 2 days later you do a 180 because he says Ohtani knew about the wires, then he didn't know about the wires. Then you got the lawyers involved because you're trying to protect $700 million. Then you hire a crisis public relations firm. Then you fire the translator. Then you come up with a press conference, similar to Tiger Woods, where you make a statement, but you don't take any questions. Guilty people don't take questions. If he was truly didn't know anything, you would take questions. You'd sit there, you'd bite the bullet. Trust me, Ohtani, that a lot of this will come out. He knew about the wires, and it's too coincidental that two large parlays over $1 million actually hit when Ohtani was on the mound. Compulsive gamblers are compulsive liars. They will take you down, and they will lie. And the problem with that is that you cannot do responsible gambling. I'm going to go back into what I said previously on step 2 and 3. Willpower and self-sufficiency do not work. Bill Wilson wrote extensively on this in the big book in the 12 and 12. And that is why responsible gambling and safe gambling and these people, you cannot stop. You just need help, and you need to completely stop. I am going to wish everyone a good Easter. And with that, I want everyone to just enjoy your day. If you don't gamble, you don't lose money. So with that, we'll end this episode of the 1% in Recovery podcast.